Welcome to the Create Your Happy podcast, where conscious female creators come together with a shared vision to inspire and empower women as they learn how to fully embrace their humanness, find their unique voice, and collaborate on how together we can change the world. I'm your host, Christy Holt, happiness coach and conscious funpreneur on a mission to change the world one beautiful soul at a time. All right, gorgeous, it's time to get curious and become inspired. It's time to create your happy. Welcome to this week's episode of the Create Your Happy podcast. Super excited to have an incredible conversation with the beautiful Lindsey, spiritual consultant and authenticity coach in the house. Good morning, Chloe. I hope you are having a fantastic morning. I would love to have you introduce yourself. Give us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to, and a little bit of your story before we dive right into this juicy conversation.
Okay, well, good morning, and thank you for having me. Like you said, I'm an authenticity coach and a spiritual consultant. I'm also a speaker and a writer. And a little bit about my story. I have taken care of my brother since I was 5. I've lost both of my parents. I've had 10 near-death experiences. I've been a CNA since I was 17. So I've helped people in all the ways, in all the fashions, and all the things. And just decided to, at some point, choose me and help other people to choose themselves too, and how to help people take care of themselves, love themselves. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story in a quickness.
Ooh, well, we got a little bit to unpack there, and I'm going to try and remember to keep track of what we have and haven't unpacked yet. So I would love for you to expand a little bit on any or all of that. And actually, I'm going to leave it to you to expand on whatever parts you feel are most relevant to our conversation today, or just whatever pieces of your story you really want to bring forth and share with the audience. Maybe those pieces that have had the biggest transformational effect on your life. And it sounds like all of them probably had a pretty substantial transformational effect, but let's just dive into one to start with and see where that takes us.
Okay. Well, let's see. Honestly, out of everything, my last near death last March, where I was in that hit and run, that should have killed me and did not. And this whole last year has been a whole healing for the mind, body, and soul in ways that I never knew. I've always been super spiritually connected to source and to everything around me. But this year I had to be very human. I had to learn thyself, learn my emotions and that they're energy in motion, learn my thoughts, allow them, learn how to just have compassion for myself and others, not to judge, just to be accepting and forgiving and surrendering, all the juicy bits. But it took that last near-death experience for me to really open up to my humanness and accept myself unconditionally and authentically.
Wow. It's so tough in a world where we have essentially been taught to throw that all by the wayside so that we can fit in and be pleasing to other people and make them like us. Oh my gosh. It is so hard to show up in all of our weird quirkiness and those parts of us that maybe at some point we were told are too much, so we hide them away. And it is hard to let those back out. I would love for you to paint us a little picture of before your accident versus after. Like, tell me what was life like before, and how did that really wake you up, that experience wake you up to leaning into this authenticity for yourself?
Well, because before my wreck, I had this spiritual connection that most couldn't. It took long time to get there. I've lived a lot of life isolated, taking care of things and learning myself. But this past year, it was almost like that connection wasn't taken away from me, but I had to go off of pure faith and in myself and in the universe, and not things that I could see in my reality like I had previously, but this trusting in myself and really learning, well, I had to unlearn who the world told me I was, learn who I am, and so that I could relearn how to do it all again, you know? And before my wreck, I thought I knew so much. Like I thought I knew life and
We
I
do,
thought I
don't
knew
we?
love.
Oh, bless your heart,
Right. You
right?
think
And
you
bless my
know,
heart.
right? Bless my heart. Bless my heart for thinking such things.
All of us.
Because the more you know, and the more you know, the more you realize you don't actually know. And the universe is like, bet, like, let me show you. So yeah, I had to learn my emotions and which ones were mine and how to honor all of them. And I had to learn my thoughts and which ones were mine. And was I stopping and consciously making those, or were they subconsciously? I never thought that before. I lived life in like a on a cloud before, and this dreamer's paradise, you know, like just a hippie floating through life. And, you know, that's still in my soul. But like, I now realize like I am the creator of this life, of my life. Have to be the one to make every conscious choice. And with that comes, you know, whatever comes from that. But before I let life kind of happen, and
Mm.
now I consciously make life happen. Like, make what I want in life to happen. Like, I make sure that it happens.
Like life is
Like I've
short.
taken charge of my life. It is. And that last near death, like you guys don't like, you don't realize forever is forever. And it was soulgasmic. To be in source was soulgasmic. Your whole body vibrates. It's like, and I was told it was too much for the human heart. It is too much for the human heart. It's so good. It's so intense. But forever is forever is forever. And this is a tiny blimp. And something clicked for me just the other day going, I get to be this human for maybe 50 more years, maybe a little longer, maybe a little less, but I get to be this badass human that is resilient as fuck, that
Yeah.
doesn't stop, doesn't know what it means to quit, and keeps going. I get to be this human that doesn't victimize myself and chooses each moment. I get to be this human. How fucking cool is it that I get to be this one?
Like
And so
every
something
day,
snapped and go,
right?
yeah. And I'm like, I got it. I gotta start honoring this temple, mind, body, and soul a lot better. Like, because I only get it for 50 more years, which is nothing. If you guys felt forever, it's forever. It's forever. It's so good, but it's so much. Like, this is the only time we'll ever get to have free will, choice, thoughts, emotions, all of them. And even if they feel like they're too much or intense, they're so good because we get to. We get to.
And I think I saw a reel recently or a video of some sort, and it was sharing this idea that actually really stuck with me. And so in the reel, they're talking about how someone was asked if they would accept $1 million. Of course, the person was like, hell yeah, I would. And they said, okay, would you accept $10 million? And they're like, duh. And then they said, well, what if accepting that meant you wouldn't wake up tomorrow? Then they said, oh, well, then no. And that just really goes to show the value of a day. And yet so many of us are waking up day after day grumbling. I know I used to, waking up in this like state of like, ugh, like I got to do all of this again. I got to show up and do the things and be what other people expect me to be. And I wasn't living for me. And so that's why that felt so sticky and icky and unpleasant and uncomfortable, because I wasn't living to be authentically me. And I think that so many people get stuck in this loop of trying to live in a way that is pleasing and looks good and gets them accepted. And this external validation ends up being the driver in their life. And so what happens is, first of all, nobody else can validate all your every need. That's just not possible. So what that is actually ensuring is an ongoing trauma to feel invalidated, to feel not seen, not heard, not loved, not accepted, all of these things. And so that leads to burnout, overwhelm, anxiety, depression, loneliness, relational conflict. Like the list goes on of all of the things. You could even be having chronic pain, health issues,
mental health issues. Like there's so many issues that stem from this not being authentically yourself. And I think that most people share this craving of wanting to be seen and heard and loved and accepted. I think that is only a natural human desire. And yet we show up looking for this external validation, people pleasing, trying to live up to others' expectations. We are not showing up as ourselves. And so that's the disconnect, because when you are wearing a mask, you are pretending, you are acting as though you are someone else, you are never going to feel really seen and heard within, because you're not allowing that part of you out. You're not showing up in your authenticity. How can anyone validate the authentic you if you're hiding it away?
Exactly.
So, step into this authentic version of yourself. And yeah, scary as fuck, because you're so used to fitting in the mold and having other people like you and not upsetting other people and doing all of these things out of this motivation for this external validation. And, a lot of times you don't get it. And so you feel pretty shitty. But what do we do as humans? We try harder. Right? We step it up. And the more we do this, we keep the snowball effect of like, who the fuck even am I anymore? Because I've spent so long pretending to be someone else that I now have lost track of who I am. And this is coming from my personal story 100%. I was so looking for that external validation. I needed to have other people like me and validate me and love me. And yet I wasn't being the real me. And so it always felt short, right? It felt like, okay, well, so I got a little bit of validation for something I did, but if they really knew who I was inside, they probably wouldn't cheer me on as hard, right? That's what that ended up looking like. Oh, they like me, but they don't know some of the things that I think about or some of the things that I may have messed up in the past, right? And our minds do all kinds of crazy things and blow these things out of proportion. They're probably not even that bad, but we have been told, we're too much, we're not enough, blah, 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 blah. We just try to fit in instead of trying to stand out, which is what we are born to do. Because everybody has a very unique message and story, and that needs to be shared with people. And guess what? You are the only one. The only one. That's how fucking special you are. The only one who has that story to share. And I'll tell you what, that story could change a person's lives real quick.
Exactly. We are all puzzle pieces to this grand masterpiece that is life. And you're telling your story. It got me to thinking, like, raising my brother since I was 5. Like, I was never Chloe. I was always Robin's daughter or Matthew's sister, caregiver to Matthew, caregiver to her mom, caregiver to the world. And that was like who the world told me I was somebody else's caregiver, but never caring for myself. So growing up, like I thought I had to effort to do more, to show more, to be more, so that I was enough, so that I had that, so I was seen, so I was heard, so I was validated, so I was loved on. And so and that's where, like, it stems from childhood. Everything stems from our childhood, whether or not we think it does or it does not. But I grew up being a people pleaser galore because I so desperately needed that outside validation to feel like I was contributing enough in the world, and it was never like, it was satisfying, but also it was because I wanted to know I was doing enough. But I do know that whenever that's the thing. Self-love is going to be what changes the world. Like, when you love yourself, you can't help but love others. It just exudes, right? Like, when you choose you can't help but choose others too, because that's your reflection. But when you're in that people-pleasing state of mind, like, you get so stuck on it. I didn't say yes when I meant yes. I didn't say no when I meant no. I said what I thought others wanted to hear. I didn't realize that there was a difference between kind and nice. Kind being who you are, nice is who the world tells you to be. And you were taught, like we've talked about, we were taught at a young age to be nice, You got to be nice, be nice, be nice. And you looked up the definition, which means
pleasing and agreeable.
agreeable.
Pleasing
Yeah.
and agreeable. Are you
So it
kidding
really,
me?
yeah, it literally says basically to be nice is to be a people pleaser. That no, we're not playing, because to be kind sometimes isn't to be nice, but it's to get truth out. We need authenticity, which is just us in our highest light and our most truth and our most authentic, open, transparent. There's no reason to lie or sugarcoat. Just be your fullest expression, your grandest expression, because like you said, it takes all of us to be that and show up in the world for change to create, and for us to just to have a domino effect of this beautiful thing that we need to happen,
And we need a
which
certain
is
amount of self-trust.
freedom.
We need a certain amount of self-trust to lean into that, because I think that the conditioning, this good girl conditioning, it weighs real heavy on us, right? And I've talked about the good girl conditioning, I think, multiple times throughout the duration of the podcast and all over the fucking place, because it leaves us in this place of living up to everyone else's expectations, obeying, listening, nurturing, caring, putting everyone else first, being the martyr. All of these kinds of things come from this, what on the surface appears to be, selfless and humble, and like the way that the feminine energy is meant to be expressed. They make it sound caring, but the problem is that it's caring for everyone else, but not for you. And so there is a better solution. We can care for other people and we can care for ourselves simultaneously. Now, who doesn't want that solution, right? But we get so trapped in this idea of caring for other people. And I'll tell you what, I see people talk about this kind of thing really often. They say like, oh, I smiled at that person and they didn't smile back. So like, fuck you very much then, right? Like this attitude of like, I gave my kindness, I
Yeah.
gave something to you and you didn't give me back what I expected. And so then we have this response, right? And we're afraid of that response. We find that response, then maybe that's not very nice. And now we feel like, oh, if I'm not nice, I'm probably not likable. And so we stay away from standing up for ourselves or using our full authentic voice, because we are afraid that it might mean we might lose some people. We might, make mistakes. And I'll tell you what, these are natural parts of growth. Okay. So when you are healing and growing, some people are going to fall away in your life. And that is okay. Because what that does is create space for your people, those ones that you desperately want to see and love and accept and validate you for who you already are, without you having to fucking prove yourself or earn your value, because that's bullshit and you can't do that anyways. All you're doing is trying to communicate that to the wrong people. But if you can create that space for the right people, oh, that's how you can truly receive this love, this acceptance, this validation that you've been seeking. And it doesn't actually really come from outside of you. That is really ultimately an illusion. So this creating space is unlearning all of that, so you can learn how to validate and love and accept yourself first. And then from that overflow, guess what your experience begins to look like. And that is absolutely transformational. That is going to change your entire experience of reality as a human. And as a human, we're here to have a good time. Okay. We're not here to suffer. We're not here to struggle. We're not here to go through the depths of hell on earth. We're here to create a heaven on earth type experience, right? We're here to create those experiences that your unique human desires, those things that are planted in your heart and soul, those things that you dream about, they're meant for you.
Amen. Preach. Mic drop. Yes. It's so yes to every bit of that. Every bit of it. Every bit of it. My mom used to always call me a martyr. Chloe, you're a martyr. I'm like, well, somebody's got to stand up for people. Funny thing, though, I can never do that for myself. I have never had an issue to stand up for other people. I'm the first, like, that's injustice. That's not okay. We're going to fix this. It doesn't matter. Like if I see it, I'm gonna stand up for it. But I had such a problem to do that for myself because I was so worried about being liked. I need that nice, good girl mentality. Like, you got to be nice. Like, no, 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 I need to be kind to me. Like, because being kind to me is being kind to everybody else. Like, loving me is loving everybody else. And you can't pour from an empty cup. Like, it's so, and society has taught us to basically take care of everybody and everything else is selfless, and to take care of yourself is selfish. And that's reverse. Somebody somewhere figured out how to control the masses or how to try to take your power away by telling you the wrong thing. No, it is selfish to not put yourself first, and it's selfless to do that.
It's absolutely backwards.
It is.
Let's flip the script, because absolutely 100% self-care and self-love is not selfish. And I think that people really, they worry that, and I've seen this come up a lot of times, and it might have come up on recent podcast episodes, but they've got this idea in their head that, first of all, they don't want to look selfish, right? Because that's quote unquote bad, and nobody wants to be bad. We want to be good. And so again, okay, this is going back to your childhood and all of those things where you were told you were good or bad, and then those shaped you, right? So you get here, you're told that it's selfish to give two hoots about yourself, right? And that you should be focusing on giving to everyone else first. But I have a few things to say about that. Number one, if the cost of giving is your peace, the cost is too fucking high. So don't do that. And also, you are not equipped. You are not at your greatest capacity to give to others when you are depleted. You are literally trying to give out of, like you said, that empty cup. And so this empty vessel that's depleted and burnt out and exhausted and literally don't know who I am. I like to call this the suffering from just a momitis, where I really lost myself when I had my kids. I was, so-and-so's mom, and I'm just their mom, right? I'm just the wife, the mother, the daughter, all of these labels. And we can get so wrapped up in those labels as identifying who we are. That's not the truth either. So really going inwards, really getting to know yourself, really asking the questions, getting curious. Like, who am I without all of those labels, without all of those external identifications? If you removed that, if you unlearned all of the societal, familial, teachings and beliefs that you've taken on, who would you be? And the truth is, you are you, and you are essentially love at the core of it. And if you don't recognize that love within yourself, then that is an indication that is a great place for you to start getting curious. Why is that? What are the things that seem to be keeping me from that? The actions that I'm taking that are depleting me even more? And how can I start to shift out of shoulding on myself, living up to other people's expectations, and leaving my own peace by the wayside as a cost to doing so?
Yes. So good.
Yeah.
Yes to every bit of that.
Yeah.
Every bit of it.
And it's so tough.
It is. It's not easy, but from someone who's had 10 near-death experiences, dying is easy. Living is hard. It takes work. It takes you choosing to live. Most people are out there just existing for stuck in this wheel of what they think society wants from them, instead of choosing to stand up and live. Like, that takes courage. That's true courage, because it's not easy to go through your healing work, but it's worth it. It's worth it. It's worth it to not have to please and be on this path of freedom. Like, it feels so good to say yes when I mean yes, to say no when I mean no, to have boundaries, to know that other people's limited beliefs are not mine to take on. It's not my energetic responsibility how someone else feels, thinks, or does. It's not. Like, and that's with everybody. If we just could stay in our own lane of healing and like loving thyself, we can do that so effortless for others too.
Absolutely. And the truth is, we spend so fucking much time worrying about what other people think about us. And the truth is, quite frankly, they're not fucking thinking about us
At all.
They are thinking about themselves just the
Yes.
way that you are so worried about yourself. And so we get stuck in this trap. And I think this is a paradoxical thing. Like, nobody cares, but also nobody really cares. So guess what? You are free to create whatever your heart desires. And like, you know, like you said, it's not easy. You might be stuck in a relationship that is just dragging your ass down and you just don't know how to keep carrying on, but it seems too hard. The uncertainty, this again, this is my story. The uncertainty might be keeping you in a relationship that you know is well past its due date, but you're scared. And that's really perfectly valid. And it feels like it would be too hard to push through that fear. But I'll tell you what's harder, staying in that relationship longer, right? That's hard. Like, when people say choose your hard, like, to me, that's like doing the work or just status quo survival mode. Choose the hard that's going to help you grow. Choose the hard that's going to eventually result in the outcome that you want. Maybe you don't love your body right now, right? That's a lot of people out there don't love their body. You've got to start to show up for you and choose. You don't have to go all the way hard to the hardest possible option, but baby steps, right? Start choosing those things that maybe make you a tiny bit uncomfortable, because listen, you need a little discomfort in order to grow. Because if you are living in the comfort zone where everything is safe and familiar, I'll tell you what, you are going to be limited to that current experience that you're having. That's not easy. And you're seeking to move out of that. You're going to have to break that barrier of a little freaking discomfort to make a change, right? It's just not possible to grow and stay comfortable. Those things, they don't go together. They're opposites. And so when we start to push the boundaries of that discomfort a little bit, and I'll tell you what, by doing so in a sort of an intentional way, I'm going to say, you can do this in a way that doesn't totally throw your nervous system out of whack and all of these kinds of things. You can do so in a way that doesn't feel as terrifying. And you can really start to make that comfort zone grow around you, so that it doesn't feel like you have to leave everything behind, but rather that you can expand into a greater, bigger comfort zone with a little bit of excitement at the edges, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like the caterpillar into the butterfly. Like, the caterpillar has to go into this goo. It becomes goo, right? It goes into this cocoon to its darkness, and in its shadows becomes total goo, and it comes out a butterfly. It doesn't know that it's going to become a butterfly. It's just like, oh my God, I'm goo. Like, is this going to last forever? And then it becomes a butterfly. That's exactly us. We go from, like, if you stay in one spot for too long, and just like plants, it takes the darkness and the light, and the light for it to grow, right? Like, it takes all of that for growth to happen. It's like you said, choose your hard. Either choose suffering, right? For me, it was like, at certain point, the suffering was too much. I allowed the people pleasing that stemmed from a childhood get me into an abusive relationship, get me into addictions, get me into things that not that I should have never gone into, because I don't regret my journey at all, but could have been avoided had I known how to choose myself, how to stop the people pleasing, and how to be authentically me. Like, if I'd have known who I was then, I wouldn't have gone through all that. But I'm grateful for all that, because I now am this person because of the things that I've gone through.
Yeah.
But it can be avoided. It's like, you don't have to wait for suffering. I'm not type of, I got to make sure something 3 or 4 or 5 times before I'm like, okay, so we don't do that thing.
Message be smacking you right upside down.
Yeah, it's like, I said, like, don't wait until you're suffering. You don't have to suffer in order to start choosing you. But if you're already at a place of suffering, like, all right, then let us help you choose you and get you to freedom and away from the people pleasing. Like, we can do that. We know how to do that. We lived through it.
And you deserve that freedom, right? Like, if you're out there doing the things and you're feeling all kinds of, the biggest feelings, I think, and you can share your thoughts too. The biggest feelings that I think I struggled with when I was in the depths of the people pleasing situation was, I felt lonely. I felt really overwhelmed because my to-do list and my expectations were heavy AF. I felt like simultaneously too much and not enough. Like, there was literally no way to actually succeed.
Yes.
I was terrified of failing, right? So I would oh, guess what? Not take action because I wouldn't want to upset anyone and not even myself, right? And what would they think? What would they say? What would what would their reaction be? And, when I was there, it felt so miserable. And I actually saw something else recently that said, like, people pleasers aren't happy people. And I will say that when I was in that space, I pretended I was happy, and I'm like generally a happy person. And so externally I could act as though I were happy, but deep in my soul, was hurting, was not feeling seen, loved, heard, accepted, or any of these things. I felt like I had to continuously perform, and it was exhausting. Right. And so we deserve freedom from that, because your health deserves it. Your relationship deserves it. Your business, your work, your career, the impact you desire, the world needs your message. All of that is you deserve to have all of those things. And so if I hear a lot of people don't like their jobs.
Yeah.
But it's hard to leave those golden handcuffs, as they say, right? The security is such a strong need in us humans as well. And this is, I think, why we really get sucked into the people-pleasing trap, because it creates this sense of security. And it's a false sense of security. Right. What we actually want is freedom. Right? We don't want to need to be tethered to this security. We need to feel safe and free to be ourselves, to create, to have the life that we truly want. And here's the real rub: is you can't control anybody else. People pleasing is essentially a form of trying to emotionally manipulate someone else, an expectation or response that you are looking for. And so I'm going to say that one again for the people in the back. The people in the back, tell them. Is a form of emotional manipulation. Now, you can do kind things. Absolutely. You can do lovely gestures and go above and beyond to gift things to people, your time, your energy, your physical gifts, any of those things. But the real indicator as to whether this is a people pleasing or it is actually a gift is your feelings that follow. Feeling resentful, frustrated, disappointed, like they didn't reciprocate in the way you expected. You might be a people pleaser, right? Right. Exactly. It's the energy behind it. And people, even if they don't realize it, can always feel energy. And that intention goes with it. Like, is your intention to be kind because that's just who you are and what you do? Or is your intention to get some sort of outside validation so that you can have a temporary high of feeling like you're enough? But really, when that's happening, it's because everybody is a mirror to tell you, I need you to go within and do that for you now. People please you. People please you then. Because make that a you thing. Like, please yourself. Like, do that for you. You're doing too much externally and not enough internally. And the more you see it on the outside is because the universe is trying to say, hey, this is what you're lacking within, or quote unquote, what you think you're lacking, but what you're not giving to yourself. I need you to observe your surroundings and your environment so that you can observe within and know that it goes hand in hand. It goes together. Yes. As within, so without. Yes. This has been said for many, many years. And yet here we are as a whole humanity, still missing what's quite obvious, but it's hard to see because of all of the societal conditioning that has been put, those filters that have been put on. So it can be really hard to see. Yet even this subtle shift can actually completely transform your life experience. So don't minimize it, even if it seems really small, really subtle. Just the tiniest shift can make a colossal difference in your experience. We want to invite you to join or watch our masterclass called The People Pleaser's Path to Freedom. And this is going to be happening as a live event May 15th. However, if you're catching this episode beyond that date, you're going to be able to find the link for the replay in the show notes. And I would love, Chloe, for you to tell us where we can find you. I know everybody knows where they can find me. I'm all over the place, but please share with the audience if anybody is interested to hear more of your story or to work with you as an authenticity coach or spiritual consultant, how can they best find you?
I mostly hang out on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn too, but mostly Facebook and Instagram. And I believe you have those two links for them.
Absolutely.
If they see this, they can just click on that and just, look me up that way and I'd be happy to help.
Yeah. And we absolutely would love to leave you with a couple of really simple ideas that you can take today and start implementing. And the one idea that I had really off the top of my head while we were having this conversation is just to think about, where are you on your list of priorities, right? Because the people pleasers, you are probably not even going to have thought to put yourself on that list. And if you are on the list, you might be at the bottom. So my invitation for you today is to really consider, are you actually prioritizing yourself, or are you prioritizing everyone else ahead of you? Because you might be a people pleaser if you don't even make your own priority list.
That's so good. That's so, I was just envisioning like writing a list out of like, and like putting down where I would sit on that list.
Yeah.
That's so like, such awareness. Like that's beautiful thing to have people look at. I like that.
Very eye-opening, right? And I think that a lot of people would not think to put themselves on that list. And I just want to bring light to that idea that you deserve not only to be on that list, to be at the fucking top of that list, because you will have so much more to give. And I know that you're a people pleaser because you want to give. Your heart says, give. You want to help, you want to heal, you want to make a difference, you want to make an impact in the world, and your heart is telling you these things. But there are some boundaries that you need to have in place. There are some priorities that you need to get in place. There are some questions and curiosities that you need to explore within so that you can do this in the most effective way possible.
So good. Mic drop, mic drop.
Check out the People Pleasers Path to Freedom Masterclass, because we are going to be sharing, how to recognize your people-pleasing tendencies if you didn't already get a lot of indication from this conversation. But we're also going to take you back to the roots of what caused that so that you can start to unpack that, learn how to start prioritizing your wants, your needs. You are worthy, right? How to extract your worth from this need for external validation, because the truth is you are already inherently worthy simply for existing. And when you are trying to earn that, you are going to continuously fall short. And we don't want that for you anymore. We want you to be fully expressed, authentically and unapologetically you, because that is exactly what the world is needing. And when you do that, you inspire other people to do the same. And that, my friends, is how we are going to change the world from the inside out.
Amen. Preach. Yes. So good.
So, thank you so much for sharing the space. Join Chloe and I for the masterclass, either live or on the replay. We cannot wait to share what we have put together for this. It is literally going to be life transformational. You do not want to miss it. And to all the people pleasers out there, we see you, we love you, and we want you to know how incredible and amazing you are. So, mwah, we love you. Now let's go do some epic shit, shall we? Yes.
Yes, let's.
Are you tired of feeling burnt out and overwhelmed by trying to please everyone else? Do you find yourself constantly putting other people's needs ahead of your own, leaving you feeling unfulfilled and resentful? Break free from the cycle of people-pleasing and take back control of your life. Learn how to identify and break free from the patterns of people-pleasing that are holding you back. Learn practical tools and strategies to set healthy boundaries and prioritize your own needs so that you can find a sense of peace and fulfillment in your life. Imagine waking up each day feeling energized and excited about your life. Imagine living life on your own terms. Don't wait any longer to take control of your life and find true happiness. The Path to True Happiness and Authenticity, a masterclass for people pleasers. Thank you so much for listening to today's show. I trust you were inspired to take back your power and create your happy. If you enjoyed this episode, Please subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with women in your life who could use a little extra inspiration today. If you'd like to connect with myself and or today's guest, you can find those details in the show notes. We would love to hear from you. If you've got an inspiring story to share, you can also apply to be a guest on the show at createyourhappy.ca. As always, get out there, have fun, be you, and create your happy.